Hello! Hello, hello.
There's an adventure out there already.
There's water coming out of my beard. Hello, I'm Deck Save Dan and welcome to the show. Hello, I'm Deck Save Dan and welcome to this TTRPG rundown.
What the hell is a rundown?
So I mentioned in a previous video what are TTRPGs and what are they all about. So here I'm going to break down some of the most popular TTRPGs out there. Their pros, their cons, what you might like about them, what I quite like about them, and you can decide from there which is the best fit for you. So the one thing that these TTRPGs have in common is they are roll-over D20 systems. Now I know you're going to ask, what does that mean? What it basically means is you have to roll higher than a certain number on a D20. That's all it is. You roll one D20 and you have to beat the number. That's all it means. I've got 4 TTRPGs for you today. 2 of them you probably will have heard of. They're the ones with the massive rule books, like textbooks, like science textbooks. It's like being at school. And I've got 2 with lesser rules, smaller rule books, more sort of do it yourself, more digest size, like an erotic novel. So we'll get started. 5th edition D&D. So this is the one you will have heard of. Dungeons and Dragons. Otherwise known as 5e. Now this is the one that people usually start with, and I'll be honest, there's a lot of support out there. There are several different starter packs, lots of places for you to start as a beginner. However, there is still an element of, where the hell do I start? And I don't blame you. Textbook. It's a textbook. There are tables, there are paragraphs, it's very wordy. I appreciate it's a lot to take in. It is a lot to take in. Now there is a lot of YouTube support out there of where to begin, but it is still quite hard to start. What do you mean? Also, it's expensive. It's really expensive. It's so expensive. This is the player's handbook. This is about 40 quid. And then to really get started, if you want a GM or DM, you've got the Dungeon Master's Guide. That's another 40 quid. Then if you want to run some monsters, because you need monsters for a campaign, you've got the Monster Manual. There it is. 40 quid. That's 120 quid worth of books right there. That's a lot of reading. That's too much reading. Now there are some advantages here as well. 5e has lots of support. There are loads of third-party creators out there, independent third-party creators who have dedicated their lives to bringing awesome content, often better than actual Dungeons and Dragons I might add, to boost your game and get you started. So let's run down the pros and cons of 5e. Pros. People have heard of it. They'll want to get involved if you suggest, should we have a game of D&D, Dungeons and Dragons? Most likely people are going to say, yeah, I've heard of that. Let's give it a go. There's lots of content out there, loads of adventures, whether that be from official Dungeons and Dragons or whether that be from third-party creators. There's lots of places for you to start and carry on playing. It will give you a good understanding of TTRPGs. Yes, it can be a bit difficult to start, but once you get going and get the basic rules, you will learn the ropes. There's lots of support out there on YouTube with channels like this to help you get going. Cons. It is expensive. If you want to get all 3 rule books, you're looking at over 100 quid. That's a lot of money to get started in a hobby. Yes, there are other options, but if you want to get going with the real rule books, it is a lot. So from an entry-level point of view, it can be quite tricky to understand all the rules sometimes. There's a lot of writing, there's lots of numbers, there's lots of pluses, there's lots of minuses. Unless you've got someone sitting next to you, like me, to talk you through it, you're not going to know what's what. What is this? Moving on, we come to Pathfinder, otherwise known as Mathfinder. Now this is pretty close to D&D 5e. However, there are some major differences. There are loads of customization rules in this. So if you're thinking, I want my character to do this, this, and this, and you go into every little detail, this will be the game for you. Also, this is your core rulebook. This is everything you need. But look at the size of it. It's massive. So to break it down, pros. The size of that book, if a burglar snuck in through your back door, you could kill him. No questions asked, one swift blow to the head, dead. Everything you need is in that rulebook. You don't need 3 rulebooks like D&D 5e, it's all contained there, so you can just get going. Loads of customization rules. If the math of the game really appeals to you, then that's the game for you. You can get into the nitty-gritty of what your characters do with their left hand, their right hand, their blimmin' arse crack, it doesn't matter. You can really get into detail. It is pretty close to D&D, so if you're familiar with that system, then you can jump into Pathfinder no problem. Lastly, I really like the art. Subjective, I know, but some people will prefer it to D&D. I prefer anything to D&D, really. I don't like them. I don't like them at all. Bunch of cunts. Cons, the maths. There is lots to take in here. There's loads of customization options, and for beginners that can be overwhelming. Even for people who've been playing a while, like myself, it can be overwhelming. It's not for me, I'll be honest, but for other people, fine. It's a massive book. Lugging that round your mates in your backpack is going to take its toll. However, if you do want to lose a bit of weight, go for it. It is close to D&D, so it will feel like a bit of a D&D rip-off for some people. People will say, what's the point in playing Pathfinder if I've got D&D? Which is an argument. My response to that would be, fuck D&D. Following up with ICRPG. Now, fair warning, this is my favourite system that I've played so far in my life, so this may come across a little bias. Comment down below what you've got to say about it. This is brought to you by the awesome Brandish Gilhelm, Hanker Infernale himself. This is one of the most imaginative, focused, best supported systems in the market today. There's loads going on with this. It's been out for a few years now, but I would highly recommend it. So it does assume that you've had a little bit of experience in the hobby before. Some of the rules assume that you will have played. So for beginners, it can be a little bit confusing. However, that is a small criticism. This is awesome. You should go play it. Play it. Play ICRPG. It's brilliant. So for Index Card RPG, pros, beautifully simple. Short sentences, brief descriptions of what to do and how to do it. Easy to understand. Awesome support out there. Through the website, there's lots of resources, how to do things. You can get on Discord, on YouTube, search ICRPG or Index Card RPG, and you're going to find some great support and a great community. Everything you need is in this one digest-sized book. A5, look at that. Easy to carry, easy to store, put it in your bag, and off you go. Cons. Some of the rules are a little bit hard to understand. If you played a TTRPG before, you'll probably pick it up okay. But if you're an absolute beginner, you might be sitting there scratching your head a little bit. It does promote a do-it-yourself attitude. It really promotes taking things into your own hands and creating a world. That can be a bit intimidating for new players, and people sometimes just want something set out for them. There are settings in there are adventures and so on, but it very much does promote that do-it-yourself attitude. I think that's why I like it, it's pretty punk rock. And lastly, we have Shadowdark. Now, I'll be completely honest with you, this is probably the best of the bunch. ICRPG is probably my favourite, and I'll be honest, I haven't played Shadowdark yet, but having read through it, it's the most easy to understand, it's probably the best laid out, and it's probably the best for beginners. It's all in one little book here. You've got everything you need. Also, there's loads of free stuff online supporting the game itself, so get involved. It is pretty old school in its aesthetic. It's a real grim, dark look about it, but it is quite close to 5e. So those coming from 5e to this will pick it up super quick, and it is way easier to follow. It is quite like ICRPG in the sense that it is quite rules light, but the rules are quite simple to follow, a little less ambiguity.
Of course.
So to wrap it up with Shadowdark, pros, all of it. It's great, it's easy to follow, it's great for beginners. The size of the book, the rules, everything you need is in there. The layout of the book is brilliant. Everything that I've mentioned, it is just great. Cons! Some people might not like the art style. It is quite grim dark, it's quite grimy, it's quite old school in the sense of harking back to the 1970s of TTRPGs. But if you don't like it, you're wrong. Very wrong. So thank you for joining me today on this rundown of TTRPGs. I hope you found it informative. If you're new to the hobby, I hope it's been helpful. Leave your comments down below, like and subscribe and all of that other stuff that YouTubers go on about. And I'll catch you in the next video. I mean, I don't hate D&D that much. I play it. But I kind of... Do I die on this hill now? I don't know. Fuck! D&D. Leave your comments below.